Welcome to the Next Level Podcast. Today we're talking about hydration. I think that there's a lot of misinformation out there. I think there's a lot of good information out there in terms of hydration. Are we nutritionists? Are we the leading experts in hydration? Probably not. However, we do know a little something
Yeah.
about hydration. So I think a lot of what our podcast is about is for people that generally lead an active lifestyle, that want to get healthier, want to get better, and just need a little bit of help along the way with reliable information, with people that are not out there like trying to sell products or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're talking about hydration, what are some kind of mistakes that people often make when it comes to hydration when they're first starting out on their health journey?
Sure. And I think that we're talking, like you said, we're not slinging any products. Water, you can find that everywhere. So obviously we've heard of different fads with different types of waters, what to put in water, how much water. There's so much information out there. So how do we boil it down to what's kind of important? And I think something that we hear if you're becoming a little more active or just even working a sedentary lifestyle and just want to be a little bit healthier is how much water you're supposed to intake.
Yeah. I that's the number one question I always get is like, so how many cups of water should I be drinking? I think that like just having a little bit of a formula would help.
Sure. So I think we've all heard of 8 ounces or 8 cups of water a day, which brings us to about 64 ounces. But more of the researchers in the field of hydration and sports, optimized performance nutrition are kind of leaning more to a formula, a very loose formula of half your body weight in pounds in ounces per day.
So say you're a 150-pound male, half of 150 pounds is 75.
Mm-hmm.
Is my math right?
Carry the one.
Yeah. So 75 ounces per day,
mm-hmm.
right? I'm a 150-pound male, maybe a little more than that. After the holidays.
It's all water weight.
That's all. So I should be drinking about 75, maybe a little more than 75 ounces a day. And that's somebody that is somewhat active, but they're not like running ultra marathons and not doing CrossFit. And, so I'm assuming that people that are doing those things a little extra than just moderately active, that they should be drinking more water.
Sure. And depending on the activity that you are participating in will depend on how much extra water you need to take in. So that 75 ounces is just to bring you to homeostasis, to keep your muscles, your tendons, your joints, everything healthy. So let's say you're a power lifter who is lifting something for 3 reps every 5 minutes or so, probably not going to sweat a ton. You are going to be exerting a lot.
Yeah.
But
I've seen some of those dudes sweat.
That is true. That's true. Especially if they do something silly like take pre-workout or something.
It's relative.
Absolutely.
Maybe those guys are like 250 pounds. They're going to have to be drinking a lot more water. I'm not going to do math live on air. Mm-hmm. 125 ounces. They're probably going to have to drink a lot more water than, say, me.
Sure. Or someone who's participating in endurance running, triathlons, etc., where they are doing endurance work, maybe at a lower level, but over a period of 1, 2, 3 hours at a time.
Yeah. Same thing with temperature, right? So if you're outside doing yard work, it might not be like the hardest thing that you're doing, mm-hmm. but you're going to be sweating a lot. And because you're sweating a lot, even though you're not doing anything like super rigorous, you have to replenish those fluids. And I think that kind of brings us into the next point about, should you just be drinking water or should you be adding a little something to your water in order to get some more hydration?
Sure. So in general, water follows salt and salt follows water. So salt helps collect water or to retain water. However, we've also experienced that if you are eating very salty foods, you're quite parched. So if you eat a whole bag of potato chips, which I don't advise, you're going to be wanting to ingest a ton more water to supplement that.
Yeah.
But I think a term that's been floating around and people get nervous about is, oh, well, you know, you said 75 ounces or that's 64 ounces. Am I drinking too much water? And for a normal person, typically that is not the case if you are eating a balanced diet.
Yeah, I mean, I think we hear that like hyponatremia. Usually that happens with people that are, doing like ultra marathons or triathlons or whatever, Ironman, and they're not replenishing their salt while they're exercising, and they're just drinking water. That could lead to some hyponatremia. However, there are some, there's a lot of athletes that need to be replacing their salt. But if you're, a regular Joe Schmo throughout the day and you're in your office and you're going for a walk and maybe you're doing some yard work, you probably don't need that many extra electrolytes.
Absolutely. But a little bit of electrolytes is actually pretty easy to come by. If you put a little bit of a pinch of salt, which I think a tablespoon of salt is your like recommended daily allowance.
It's a lot of salt, actually.
It is a lot of salt. So just a pinch will actually suffice. And you can even get more electrolytes with putting like lemon wedges or lime wedges in your beverage just to give the electrolytes so you avoid that hyponatremia, which, like I said, is you would have to ingest a lot of water, but it is a dangerous event to be having if you are an endurance athlete, drinking that much water with no electrolytes or salt added.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of different products out there. I mean, I'm a guy that's less is better when it comes to those supplements. You don't want to see a lot of sugar. You don't want to see a lot of other additives in there. Just electrolytes, potassium, maybe some calcium, sodium, the basics in terms of electrolytes.
Mm-hmm. And how do we know that we need more electrolytes in our water? And there are some easy ways to figure that out, right?
Yeah. Well, one thing, knowing whether or not you're even just dehydrated, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got the Turner test,
right?
Where you like pinch the skin on the back of your hand, and like if it, I might be a little dehydrated. I am a little thirsty. So when you pinch the skin on the back of your hand and it doesn't like snap back into place, that is a sign that you probably are a little bit dehydrated. And if it takes a long time for it to go back, you're probably really dehydrated, like dangerously so. Another thing is like the ring of white around your lips.
Mm-hmm.
You licked your lips just now.
Yeah.
Don't worry, you were good.
Yeah.
The ring of white around your lips. My kids get that a lot when they're running around outside and they don't think about them being thirsty. Another thing is if you're thirsty. I mean, research says like if you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated.
Sure.
Like you're probably just dehydrated, pretty significantly so. You should try to keep ahead of your hydration. Which brings us to the next thing, like what are mistakes that people make when it comes to trying to keep hydrated? One thing is like they drink all their water at the same time. Like they just gulp it like twice a day and they have like 35 ounces of water. I would throw up, but
yeah,
they have like 35 ounces of water in one sitting and they're like, I don't like drinking water because it makes me pee all the time.
Right.
Like maybe if you flush your system only twice a day and you're dehydrated for 90% of the day, then of course, like your kidneys are going to be not happy with you. But yeah, those are some mistakes I often see.
Yeah, all of our tissues have a saturation level. So at some point, your body's not going to be absorbing any more water. It's just going to be running through your system, which is not horrible, but you're not gleaning the benefits of all that water. So to space it out throughout the day is more advisable. The only time that I would say it is recommended to drink a little bit more water all at once, and just a larger portion of your water for the day at once is when you first wake up. Because when we wake up, I think everyone's kind of felt that where they're a little dehydrated. We actually lose a lot of fluid while we're sleeping, especially if it's a hot night or anything like that. Your joints, your synovial joints need fluid. Your tendons, your muscles, everything needs, we actually lose some space in our intervertebral discs because the fluid is being drained out and evaporated through our skin. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's a good, something to observe when you first wake up is if your joints are really achy, if you have cracks on your tongue, if you have that parched lips when you look in the mirror, that's a good sign that you were pretty well dehydrated throughout the night. And I would say, drink
a little extra water
first thing in the morning.
Yeah. I mean, another sign is headache.
Oh, man.
People are like, oh, man, my head hurts. I'm like, yeah. Do you drink any water? You're like, oh, no, I hate water. I only drink scotch. I'm like, maybe that's something to do
might have something to do with
the raging alcoholics. But yeah, I think that that's like the first thing I tell my patients. Like, I get headaches a lot. I'm like, are you looking at a screen all day and not drinking water and all you drink is coffee? And they're like, yeah. And it's usually part of the reason why you get a headache. That's because you're dehydrated.
Speaking of that cognitive function, and you brought up a buzzword, coffee. So does it dehydrate you? Does it count as water? What is it? Is it bad to drink that much coffee?
Coffee is perfect. Okay.
Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Coffee is my favorite thing in the world. So no, coffee is. So everyone says that coffee is a diuretic and like it dehydrates you. So the research shows that although coffee does have diuretic properties, you do not get dehydrated from the overall liquid you're consuming from coffee. Is not negated by the caffeine that's in the coffee. So you are getting some hydration. However, the negative impacts of like too much coffee, like higher blood pressure, higher heart rate, the jitters, increased anxiety, stuff like that your coffee shouldn't be your main source of hydration. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. But if we drink tea and coffee in a moderate amount, we can include that into our water for the day without worrying about that we are dehydrating ourselves.
I mean, you could technically say the same thing about like seltzer or Diet Coke or other like sugary drinks, but the negative impacts of that sugar and that other products and other chemicals in those types of beverages, just stick with water.
Absolutely. Yeah. Water seems to be the best.
Water's the best.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we want to cover?
So with food, when you're eating food, are there certain foods that have more water in them? Like, can we kind of include food in our dietary allowance for water?
So, I mean, although there's a lot of good, of course, like healthy fruits and vegetables, things of that nature, they do contain water, but not enough for you to add to your hydration count. Maybe the exception to that, it might be like watermelon. And there's like a lot of good stuff and even stuff like celery. Yeah. But in terms of counting towards your hydration levels, I think it's just your liquids.
Yeah. And so celery is already naturally high in like natural salt as well as water content. Same thing as like pickles. And you'll hear a lot of like endurance athletes and things like that will eat pickles because of the salt content and the water.
And drink pickle juice.
Exactly. The brine, maybe not so great, but because of the sodium and the water. So pickle juice is actually a wonderful electrolyte drink. A little tough to swig down in high quantities. So I would say go with the lime water. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, it's good in a in like kind of an emergency situation. So you'll see, people cramping. frequent cramping. It's a lot of things that I hear from, especially my older patients. Like, I get a calf cramp every night. And I'm like, are you hydrating well? And they're like, absolutely not. I'm not hydrating well. Also, quinine water and other options in terms of cramping. Cramping is also a sign of dehydration and electrolyte imbalance. They might be deficient in calcium. They might be deficient in potassium. There's some other deficiency that they might need to supplement in terms of their hydration to help with the cramping.
Yeah. And you just touched on something that's kind of interesting when you said quinine water. We've heard a lot of stuff recently about alkaline water, pH balanced water, water that theoretically is better for you than simple, just out of the faucet water. So what should we glean from some of this information that's like floating around?
I mean, you could chime in there if you disagree with me, but in general, your body is very good at maintaining homeostasis, and your blood pH or your body's pH, which is like the acidity or alkalinity of your body, is very tightly regulated. If you have huge fluctuations in your pH, there's something very metabolically wrong with your body, and you need to like see a medical doctor. It's not okay. So a lot of these products that are saying, oh, the alkaline water will decrease the acidity of your blood and decrease inflammation and stuff like that. If it were able to do what it says that they do, it would have to be extremely basic or extremely high pH for you to be able to actually change the acidity level of your body. So long story short, if it could do what it says it does, there's something wrong with your body.
Right. And the research is out. We haven't really seen anything come in, but like you're saying, you've got your body has two ways to regulate your pH, your metabolic system and your cardiorespiratory system. And both, if they're functioning properly, should handle that. So like you're saying, no pun intended, keep it basic. Just keep water.
Well, I think we could have with that.
Yeah.
Stay basic.